Hey everyone, ready to really get inside the mind of Steve Jobs with me today.
Always ready for that.
We're diving into Walter Isaacson's biography, and, well, you know me.
Yeah, you can't resist a good deep dive.
I can't resist a good behind-the-scenes look at what made somebody tick, especially someone as complex and fascinating as Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Forget a dry timeline-heavy recounting of his life. We're after the good stuff.
Yeah, the juicy stuff. And Isaacson definitely delivers on that. I mean, he interviewed over 100 people for this book.
Wow.
Not just Jobs himself, friends, family, even rivals. So
Wow.
talk about getting a well-rounded perspective, right?
That's amazing. Okay, so one thing that jumped out at me right away was this idea of a reality distortion field surrounding Jobs.
Mm-hmm.
What is the deal with that?
It's fascinating, right? It's like Isaacson paints this picture of Jobs having this almost supernatural ability to bend reality to his will, to
Yeah.
convince people that the impossible was possible.
Right.
And oftentimes it worked, but I think there was a kind of a trade-off there too.
Oh, I bet. So how did this reality distortion field actually play out? Give me an example.
Well, think about the Macintosh team.
Okay.
Isaacson talks about how Jobs gave them this insanely tight deadline,
Oh, no.
one that everyone said was impossible to meet.
I can already feel the stress.
Right. But fueled by Jobs' absolute conviction, they pulled it off.
Wow.
Somehow.
So it's like a superpower, but maybe one with some, shall we say, side effects?
Exactly. Some people were energized by it, pushed beyond, what they thought they were capable of. But for others, it was just a recipe for burnout.
Right.
Even Wozniak himself,
Yeah. Right.
The genius behind the Appleseed, even he admitted that Jobs's way wasn't always the best way. He said a mix of their styles would have been better for everyone.
Which makes sense because from what I've gathered, Wozniak was quite different from Jobs.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, they were like two sides of the same coin.
Mhm.
Where Jobs was all about showmanship and bold pronouncements, Wozniak was the classic engineer, brilliant with technology,
Right.
but less comfortable with the whole, being in the spotlight thing.
Makes you wonder how they functioned as a team for as long as they did.
I know, it's amazing.
Speaking of relationships, one thing that's hard to ignore in this book is Jobs' personal life.
Yeah.
And it's not always pretty.
No.
I mean, his relationship with Chris Ann Brennan and their daughter Lisa, that's a whole other layer of
It
complicated.
really is. Isaacson doesn't shy away from the messier aspects of Jobs' life.
Yeah.
And this is a prime example. He really captures the turbulence of that relationship, especially in the early days of Apple.
Right.
I mean, can you imagine Jobs denying paternity of his own child?
It's hard to reconcile that with the image of the tech visionary we all know.
Right.
Yeah.
It is, and it speaks to a certain complexity in his personality.
Right.
Isaacson even touches on Jobs' own experience of being adopted as a factor in all of this.
Yeah.
But later on, Jobs does reconcile with Lisa, though their relationship, according to Isaacson, remained, complicated, even strained at times. Lisa herself described her father's visits as fleeting moments of almost divine attention.
Wow.
Imagine having that kind of presence, even if it was only occasional, right?
That's heavy stuff. It seems like that intensity, that larger-than-life persona, followed him everywhere.
Definitely did.
I've always been curious about Jobs' design philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
It's legendary.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like it was about so much more than just making things aesthetically pleasing, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. There was a depth to it, a philosophy that just permeated everything he did.
Right.
And one of the most interesting things Isaacson highlights is the influence of Jobs' father, Paul.
Oh, that's right. Paul was a mechanic.
Yeah.
What kind of influence did that have on Steve?
Well, Paul was the one who instilled in Jobs this deep appreciation for craftsmanship,
Uh-huh.
for sweating the details, even the ones nobody else would ever see.
Yeah.
There's this great anecdote in the book about how Paul built a fence in their backyard.
Hold on, a fence.
Yeah.
That sounds a little too, ordinary for Steve Jobs.
Hear me out. It's not about the fence itself. It's about the care Paul took in building it.
Okay.
He meticulously crafted each board, even the backsides that face the neighbor's yard.
Wow.
And when Steve asked him why, Paul simply said, for you to sleep well at night, the aesthetic, the quality has to be carried all the way through.
Wow. Okay, I get it.
Right.
That's a powerful lesson.
It is, right.
Yeah.
And it's something that Jobs carried with him throughout his life and career. That attention to detail, that pursuit of perfection, it's evident in every product Apple ever released under his watch.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about the product itself. Jobs had learned from Mike Markula, one of Apple's early investors, that presentation was everything.
Right.
Packaging, marketing, the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Even the box had to be perfect.
It all ties together, doesn't it? That obsession with detail, that drive to make things not just good, but exceptional. But, okay, we've talked a lot about how Jobs operated. Did it actually translate into success?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
And luckily, Isaacson walks us through some key moments that really, really illustrate Jobs' impact. The iMac, for example.
Yes, the iMac.
Right.
Talk about a splash of color in a sea of beige computers.
Exactly. Jobs had just come back to Apple. The company was struggling.
Right.
The iMac, with its playful design, all-in-one functionality, it wasn't just a product.
Right.
It was a statement.
Yeah.
And it worked. Big time.
It really did revive Apple's image, didn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, made them seem fresh and innovative again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, of course, came the iPod, which, let's be honest, completely changed the way we listen to music.
Yeah, 1,000 songs in your pocket. It seems almost quaint now, but
I know, right?
at the time it was revolutionary. And the iTunes Store.
Yeah.
You have to wonder, did Jobs fully grasp how much he was about to disrupt the entire music industry?
It's incredible to think about. Speaking of disruption, that whole digital hub idea that Jobs was so passionate about, our phones are basically mini computers now, just like he envisioned.
Right.
Did Isaacson get into that at all?
Absolutely. Yeah, he really emphasizes how Jobs saw the personal computer, even back then, as the center of our digital lives.
Right.
And you know what? He wasn't wrong.
He wasn't?
Yeah.
Okay. But let's be real. We can't just gloss over the difficult aspects of Jobs' personality. I mean,
Yeah.
he wasn't always the easiest person to work with, to say the least.
No, he definitely, Isaacson doesn't shy away from that at all. It makes you think about the trade-offs, the price of genius, so to speak.
It's interesting you bring that up because Isaacson actually spends quite a bit of time on Jobs' rivalry with Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Another giant of the tech world.
Of course.
Talk about a clash of titans.
Right. Two incredibly ambitious personalities, but with completely different approaches.
Right.
You know, Gates, the brilliant but pragmatic programmer, focused on building a software empire. Jobs, the showman, the artist at heart, he wanted to create products that were as beautiful as they were functional.
They needed each other, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
Especially in those early days. I mean, Microsoft software was crucial for the Mac.
True, but that didn't stop the rivalry from becoming, shall we say, a little heated at times.
No, I bet.
Isaacson even mentions that awkward moment at Macworld when Jobs brought Gates out on stage.
Wait, what happened?
So Jobs had Gates's image projected onto this giant screen. Right. It was meant to be this big announcement about Microsoft's commitment to the Mac, but instead it kind of backfired. Made Jobs look a bit petty even.
Oh, I bet. I can only imagine the tension in the room.
Yeah. And Jobs later admitted that it was a mistake. He even acknowledged, if we want Microsoft Office on the Mac, we better treat the company that puts it out with a little bit of gratitude.
Speaking of gratitude, this deep dive has definitely given me a newfound appreciation for how much Jobs shaped the technology we use every day.
Absolutely. He really did. But it also makes you wonder, doesn't it?
About the cost.
Yeah.
Was that reality distortion feel, the intensity, the ruthlessness, was it all necessary?
Right.
Could Apple have become what it is without it?
It's a question that lingers, isn't it?
It really is.
And I think that's part of what makes Isaacson's biography so compelling.
Right.
He doesn't offer any easy answers.
Right.
He presents this very nuanced portrait of a complex figure, flaws and all.
Right. It's true. He really makes you think, like, we see the incredible products, the sleek designs, the way Apple revolutionized entire industries.
Yeah.
But there's that other side of the coin too, the demanding boss, the relentless perfectionist.
Right. It's all part of the story, isn't it? And speaking of Jobs' eye for detail, Isaacson also delves into how that extended beyond product design. Remember those iconic Apple stores?
Oh, absolutely. Those were revolutionary in their own right. Such a departure from the typical computer store. Who would have thought a trip to buy a phone could feel like a cultural experience?
Right. And what's fascinating is that initially, Jobs wasn't sold on the idea at all.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He thought retail stores were for companies that couldn't sell their products any other way.
That's surprising. So what changed his mind?
Well, once he decided to move forward, Jobs, well, he threw himself into the project with his usual, intensity.
Yeah.
He obsessed over every single detail, from the layout and the lighting to the materials, the checkout process, you name it. He even brought in Ron Johnson, who was the mastermind behind Target's massively successful retail strategy.
That's right. And together, they created something completely unique. I mean, Apple stores aren't just about buying a product, are they?
Sure.
They're about experiencing the brand, the aesthetic, the whole philosophy.
Exactly. And it was a brilliant move. I mean, Apple stores are destinations now. They draw in huge crowds and they generate a ton of revenue.
Yeah. It all comes back to Jobs' vision, doesn't it? He saw how important it was for every aspect of the brand, even the physical space, to reflect those core values of simplicity, elegance, and user experience.
Yeah, it's that holistic approach that set him apart. He understood that every touch point mattered, and you can't argue with the results.
Yeah, really is remarkable. Okay, we've covered so much ground here. We've talked about the reality distortion field, the design philosophy, the impact on Apple, the rivalry with Gates. But I think what really sticks with me is the sheer force of Jobs' personality. It leaps off the pages of this biography.
Absolutely, and it's that force, that unwavering belief in his own vision that ultimately shaped his legacy. He didn't just want to build a company, he wanted to change the world.
And he did. I mean, love him or hate him, you can't deny his impact. He pushed the boundaries of what was possible, not just in technology, but in design, in music, in how we connect with each other. It's hard to imagine our world without the products and the ideas that he brought to life.
And even beyond the products themselves, I think Jobs left us with a lot to think about. What does it take to be truly innovative? How do you build a brand that resonates on such a deep level? These are questions that anyone in any field can ask themselves.
That's what makes this kind of deep dive so rewarding. It's not just about learning about Steve Jobs. It's about using his story as a springboard for our own journeys, our own pursuits, whatever they may be.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe there's a little bit of Steve Jobs in all of us. That drive, that passion, that desire to make a dent in the universe.
Maybe so. It's certainly something to think about. Well, I have to say I'm feeling incredibly inspired right now, and a little exhausted, if I'm being honest, but in a good way. It's like we just went on this whirlwind tour of a brilliant, complicated, and ultimately unforgettable mind.
I couldn't have put it better myself. I think anyone who's ever been captivated by a Steve Jobs product, or even just intrigued by the man himself, would find a lot to appreciate in this book.
Absolutely. And if you're looking to do your own deep dive into the world of Steve Jobs, be sure to check out Walter Isaacson's biography. It's a wild ride.
Until next time.
Happy reading, everyone.